G'day mate, 40 here. I'm listening to the Michael Wolff biography of Rupert Murdoch. It came out in 2008. It's on Audible. And he has a lot of killer lines. One of them is that Australians are people whose artifice is that they have no artifice. Artifice meaning manners, presentation. And therefore they tend to annoy every other people in the world who do have artifices that the Aussies stomp all over. So I've generally found that Americans very friendly towards Australians, that a lack of artifice tend to be found refreshing by Americans, but I understand why Aussie bumptiousness and crudity would get on a lot of nerves. And made me think about one of the benefits of immigration. And I am an immigration restrictionist, but as an immigrant, I'll say something positive for immigrants is that they may not be bound by the same artifices that bind the native population. And while this can be frequently obnoxious, even criminal, disturbing, reduces social cohesion, social trust, these are all bad things. On the other hand, by ignoring artifice, you can often do something deeper, because artifice, manner, courtesy, these habits of self-presentation, never just artifice, they also change how you think. So people think differently in Hebrew than they do in English, than they do in Spanish, than they do in Russian, than they do in German. And we have these invisible webs of language and artifice and manner that often form the beginnings of a hero system, and they blind us to other possibilities. So you bring in immigrants and they often won't have the natives' artifice. They'll have their own artifice, their own ways of doing things, which in some ways will prove to be more efficient, more effective. So you have the success of middleman minorities such as the Lebanese and the Jews. I noticed as a convert to Judaism that Jews in business operate often differently. There's often a warmer emotional component. There's a gift with schmoozing. There's a socially effective personality, right, which is more outgoing than introverted, which is more conscientious than lacking in conscientiousness, which is more agreeable than disagreeable, less neurotic than neurotic. And this is a socially effective personality, right? This is a way of approaching the world that will generally produce better than expected results in terms of earnings, popularity, communal standing, just effectiveness with navigating life. And so Ronnie Goodman wrote a terrific memoir about his time at Stanford University, particularly Stanford University Law School. And good morning! And he refused to follow the artifices of academic writing. So there is a certain presentation that is required if you want to succeed in the academy. So I'm interested in the topic of pundits. So if I wanted to write an academic article on pundits, I would first have to become familiar with all the preceding academic literature on the topic, and then acknowledge that corpus of work and its leading contributors, essentially bow to them and their insights, and then add something to that. So you pay tribute to this person, But, despite his great contribution to knowledge, I take issue with this, this one statement that he made, and it is upon this foundation of taking issue with one of the giants in the field of scholarship that you then launch into your own scholarship. But if you don't nod and acknowledge and cite and name all the titans of the field and of the topic on which you're writing, right, you're not going to get any traction in the academy. So what happens in the popular presses and popular media, all right, doesn't tend to sway academic research very much as a source of truth, because the academy regards truth as that which is peer-reviewed and which cites the people who've gone before you and acknowledges the quality of other people's work and then builds upon that and self-consciously nods while Professor Higgins says this and Professor Cohen proposes this. I think there's a middle way forward, a dialectic between these two approaches that I call the default hypothesis. And so it's artificial, right? It's not a natural way of writing, and many people rebel against it. And by taking on this artifice, it also constrains your output, right? Manners, mores, these sort of techniques, these acknowledgements, right? They then shape your final product. So if you're looking to revolutionize a field of thought, such as Ronnie Goodman did in his work in progress, Conservative Theories of Cultural Oppression, he overthrew this academic style of writing. He refused to abide by the artifice. He refused to play the game. As a result, he could get no traction at Stanford University Law School, nor launch into a career as a law professor. He had to become a humble personal injury attorney or some such, and become an independent scholar. Now, the advantage of what he's doing by refusing to play by the rules, which means essentially burning bridges to the academic mainstream, is that it opened him up to new ways of encountering reality and encountering life. So artifice is the buffer between us and life, right? Mores, manners, stylistic presentation, following customs, right? This is all usually good stuff. It's a way of creating a buffer between raw human nature, which is frequently wild, savage, selfish, self-centered, cruel. But you do lose some freedom of intellectual movement very easily when you conform to the academic ethos. And Ronnie Goodman, by refusing to conform to the academic ethos, by behaving like an Australian, right, whose artifice is no artifice, just banged on into the academy with his work in progress, conservative claims of cultural oppression, like he produced a monumentally important work.